Hi there, if you are a newer content creator or you're looking to get started in content creation, hi, I'm Molly. I am a full-time content creator in the lifestyle and pet space, and I've put together a little bit of a montage on some videos that I've done, kind of just beginner friendly, diving into content creation, some monetization terms and things to know with getting started, pros and cons to the industry, as well as some tips for growth, all with very beginner friendly, easy to understand language, because if you're someone like me, this is all completely new and different from anything else that you may have done in your life. So hopefully this can help. Please let me know in the comments below what you would want to see next and have me dive into that could be helpful. Let's get ready for the day and talk about the pros and cons of social media, specifically the pros and cons of being a full-time content creator. Or this would honestly even apply to doing content creation part-time or getting into it. So the first thing I would say that is both a pro and a con is that social media takes a lot of time, at least for me. It's the type of job that, listen, it's not the most difficult job in the world. Obviously, we all know that. I'm not saving lives. I'm not working 12-hour shifts on my feet as a nurse. I'm not doing a lot of things that a lot of people do that are absolutely amazing with their job. And I'm never going to pretend like it's the most difficult job in the world. But what I will say is it's extremely time consuming. I definitely work much more than 40 hours per week. I would say I'm pretty much always working. I don't really go more than maybe a couple of hours if I'm actively off doing something with people, but I'm always checking my phone, always doing things. It kind of never stops, and that is kind of leads into one of the cons of it, is there's no end point. With social media, you can always do more. You can always be posting more. You can always be engaging more. You can always be pitching or networking. There's no limit to what you can do and how you can improve. You can be just even watching YouTube videos on different editing techniques and things like that. There's always more that you can be doing. So it's very hard to set boundaries for yourself and not be working round the clock, not missing real life opportunities with people and taking a break. Typical job that your job ends when you leave the office. Like, you might be in the office all day 9 to 5, but then that ends when you get home. That doesn't really happen with social media, and everything with social media is content, which can be a huge pro, that you can, to a degree, go out and live your regular life and have that still be work. Like, I will go on an outing with friends, or I'll be cleaning my house, and I can film that and use that as content, which is amazing, but it's also a pressure to always be working, and it kind of takes away that element of just living in the moment and enjoying things, because you could always be filming it and always doing something with it, and you don't really want to be living from behind the camera. You want to be actually living. But at the same time, if I'm able to film different things, it also gives me a lot more opportunities. Like, I've had certain travel opportunities and things like that because of social media. So if I'm filming and that's the price that I pay, but I'm able to travel or get to meet new people or have cool new experiences, it can be worth it for that, of course. I know that boundaries are something that I really, really struggle with and am working on, to put my phone down and remove myself and put my phone down and not just be thinking about things in my head. I've gotten to the point sometimes where I'm waking up in the middle of the night or waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning with an idea that I'm literally like having a dream about, and I have to find my phone in the bed because it's always in the bed somewhere because I fall asleep on my phone and I'm finding it to quickly write down a note. So it ends up really consuming me. I think that my brain is always, the wheels are always turning and always like new things just come to me, which is great for this job in this industry, but it just takes over sometimes. So I'm working on finding a bit more of a balance with that. With social media, or that can be challenging, is to a degree your job is dependent on what other people think of you. Of other things, it's easy to say, well, I don't care what people think. But if you're looking to monetize or grow a platform or post, you kind of have to care about what people think to a degree, and finding that balance once again of not limiting your creativity and not hiding who you are, not being yourself, but also wanting to please people. That's kind of the whole point. And then I think it can get difficult as well, because for some accounts, it matters what people think, even if they don't think good things. That is still engagement, and that still pushes out posts. So that's where you'll find kind of like rage bait content, or content that is intentionally sharing very unpopular opinions regularly and being very controversial, because what people think, whether that's negative or positive, affects their growth and their performance and how successful they are. A pro definitely is that it's a great creative outlet to have your mind kind of start thinking of everything as being like art in a way. Social media is kind of a form of art, I would say, because it's photography or videography. And I know it's helped me to film certain things in my everyday life that maybe I don't view as super exciting or beautiful, and it's helped to give me a new perspective. Like, one of my favorite things now is to film at like the grocery store or a farmer's market or something like that. I think it gives me a different perspective to look at things through a camera lens sometimes, and you can see everyday life as a lot more beautiful. I hate the rain. It's actually raining now, pouring out my window. Filming the rain kind of gives a new, more beautiful perspective on it, and I can kind of feed into it and have a bit more of a cozy day, when usually the rain just makes me feel like sad and over it. So I think it can really help you kind of romanticize life as well, and seeing it through a different perspective instead of just your own eyes. Can be difficult is a lot of people in your day-to-day life aren't going to get it. It's kind of very removed, I would say, in my opinion, from a lot of more typical jobs or typical hobbies. So people don't really understand it, and it's all kind of a newer thing, being an influencer or a UGC creator. Like, most people don't really understand what that entails. So a lot of people are not going to be very impressed with what you do, I find, because it's hard to imagine that this could be a job, or this could be as big of a community as it is. I think that can be hard, and not having people in your day-to-day life in person to talk to about different things or to bounce ideas off of, that sort of thing. One of the pros is definitely the flexibility. I've had some very late nights working and getting things done, but because I spent the day doing something else, or was traveling and on a plane or different things like that, and am able to stay up till 4 a.m. doing my work, where a lot of jobs don't have that option. So that is something that I'm grateful for. Working from home in general can be helpful for people with health issues or different things like that, to be able to be in your own home, which can be beneficial. It can also be a little isolating. I don't find that that is always too difficult, because at least with social media, usually you're having a lot of day-to-day communication with others, but it's still not that in-person connection. One thing is there's obviously the perks of getting free stuff. I think that's kind of the most obvious part. Even people that don't know much about content creation know that. So you can definitely save money there, which is nice. But there's also no health insurance, dental insurance, things like that automatically included in this line of work. And then one thing that, this might be very niche and just a me thing, but I basically completely stopped using my personal social media because it's too much. I've had enough. Social media is my work and it's my hobby, but I just don't really have an interest in posting on my own page. But I do think that social media serves such a purpose, and it's a great way to stay in touch with people, connect. Like, I know I have friends from all over that I have a little bit of an idea of what they're up to, how they're doing. So I do feel like I miss out a little bit not posting on my personal page, posting without being such a perfectionist about it, and just genuinely sharing fun content of myself and documenting those memories. I know that there obviously are some people that have more personal pages that they do keep up with and do social media, but that's something that I haven't really been doing personally that I miss. My final kind of big pro that might be obvious to some, but social media provides so many opportunities for people. Even people that aren't posting as a full-time job or their whole main thing, it's still just a really, really beneficial skill in general to be able to use social media, and then the additional skills that you gain from using social media. And I think that really it can apply to any industry out there. And there are so many opportunities that people get who are just posting here and there. Like I said, it's not their full thing, but it can provide some really amazing connection. Overall, I would say obviously there are a lot more pros to it than cons for me, and it's something that I have thoroughly enjoyed and just keep making more and more connections and people that I'm so thrilled and grateful to have in my life. Oh my goodness, I didn't put anything on my eyebrows. Clearly, I am not meant to be in the beauty space. Okay, just gonna add a little something so that they're not bare. I have very light natural eyebrows and obviously very dark hair. But thank you so much for listening to me ramble, and maybe you learned something new or feel inspired, hopefully, to start creating some content. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I thought I would do a little monetization 101, kind of just talking about some of the basics of monetizing on social media. I get a lot of questions about this, so I think I'm just gonna go over kind of mostly some basic terms and things like that that I have learned through my journey with content creation. And then if you are interested in a more specific topic, I could maybe do a separate video deep diving into it a little bit more, but just to kind of go over some basics if you're getting started and some general terms. The first thing would be some different ways that you can monetize on social media, one being through platforms directly. So each platform has their own way of doing it. Like TikTok, there is the TikTok Creator Program, and you can monetize on videos that are over a minute long if you have a certain following, etc. And you get paid for views. Each platform does it a little differently of what they require to join these programs and how they pay out, and that can really range. And I think that oftentimes it is a lot lower than people would expect. I know some creators who have brought in 20+ million views in a month and gotten paid maybe $500. And that does sound like a good bit of money, but with the work that would go into getting the views, it doesn't always add up, but it also does depend on the platform. Some pay higher and some pay much lower. Another way would be brand deals, which is kind of usually the biggest one, where you are promoting a product for a brand and kind of essentially making an ad for them on your page. And there is UGC work. UGC stands for user generated content, which is similar to a brand deal, but usually that would be content that you're creating for a brand that is not posted on your page. It would be for the brand's use to post on their page. And this can be really beneficial for creators with lower following. I mean, it's great for any creator, but you do not need to have a following to be successful in UGC. And then another way that you can monetize is affiliate marketing. So that would be when someone has a code or a link with a brand and they are making a commission off of every time that a product is sold using that code or using that link. And so platforms like TikTok Shop are also an example of affiliate marketing. Different ways to go about getting these opportunities. Some of it is going to be outreach on the brand's part, and brands are going to reach out to you. So you're going to want to have an email for that, or it can be through DM sometimes. Also pitching directly to brands, and then there are platforms where you can apply to specific campaigns or specific opportunities as well that are directed towards influencers. And then there is a media kit, which is kind of like your resume as a creator. Usually will have your statistics on there, engagement rate, things like that, that are more behind the scenes. And then you can also have a portfolio, which in my opinion is more of examples of your work versus stats, and can be something that might be more beneficial for UGC or something like that if stats aren't your main thing that you're focusing on or looking to put out there. And then when you are working on these deals, there are different types of content. So on Instagram, there's a reel, which is a video, or on TikTok or other platforms, it would just be a video. A carousel, which is a photo post with multiple photos. And then there's a photo post, which would usually just be one photo. You could offer a story or a story set, which I've seen usually is 3 to 5 story frames, depending on the specific deal. And then people have package rates for multiple deliverables. Another term that's brought up a lot when talking about deliverables is B-roll footage, which would be your unedited footage. So everything that you're filming to create a reel and put together an edited video, all of that just left as is unedited, and usually then the brand would have access to use that and repurpose it as they please. And then some different terms that might come up when you are negotiating a contract with a brand. First of all, you definitely always want to have a contract in place when working on a brand deal. It will help protect you, and usually the brand would want to have that as well to help protect them on their end, so that the creator actually has to make the content they agreed to, etc. So it kind of just protects everyone, but I would definitely recommend to read your contracts. Read them up and down a few times. Make sure you understand and know what you're signing and the terms that you are agreeing to ahead, or it can get you in some trouble later on if you weren't aware or didn't understand correctly, and you could end up potentially violating your contract. But one of the terms that you will often see in a contract is something to do with usage, which is ad usage or whitelisting. There's a couple different ways that your content can be used, but it's basically your content being paid to be run as an ad and pushed out to a specific audience. And usually there is an additional fee included for that. Something else you will see is perpetual usage, and perpetual would be that they have that usage forever. So 5, 10, 15 years from now, the brand could still use your content, depending on the terms of your agreement. They might be able to edit that content and repurpose it, or only use it as is. But anything perpetual, you are kind of roped into that forever. That is what that means. And then another term you may see is exclusivity. This would limit your ability to work with the brand's competitors, either their overall competitors. It could be you can't work with any other pet brands, or you cannot work with any dog food brands, or it would be you can't work with any kibble companies, or you just can't work with these 3 or 4 brands. It will completely range on what that exclusivity is, but it's basically limiting you from working with competitors. And some people might hear that and think, well, I'm not going to promote 2 of the same product anyways, but you would be surprised at what can be considered a competitor. It can be 2 completely different brands from a user's perspective, but not in terms of the company or the brand's perspective. And usually I would say there is a fee associated for that as well, because it's going to limit you from working with certain brands during a specific time period. And exclusivity and usage can range. So you can give a brand usage for 1 week, or they can require exclusivity for a week or 24 hours within posting. Usage and that exclusivity can also be perpetual, or it could be for a year, different things like that. So that's when you want to thoroughly read and know what you are signing and what usage you are giving, so that you aren't accidentally violating that contract, like I said before, and so that you're getting your worth. And there are different types of deals. So you can do a gifted campaign, which would be in exchange for an item. You're posting maybe a reel, or you are taking some photos that the brand can use, different things, but it's in exchange for an item. I would definitely talk to your accountant still about gifted exchanges, at least in the US. You may need to pay taxes on those items that are gifted to you, even if you aren't making money from that deal direct. And of course, paid campaigns, where you are getting paid a set rate for whatever content or deliverables you agree on with the brand. And then with affiliate marketing, that can be on its own as a part of a gifted campaign. So you are getting the item, say, for free, or maybe even it's an item that you purchased on your own, but you sign up for the affiliate program and you make a certain percent, 10, 15, 20, 25% of commission. But that also can be something that's added on to paid campaigns, that you're getting a set amount and you're also getting 15% commission, say. So that can be added on a couple different ways. And then some creators get PR or gifted items that are not a gifted collaboration. So they are just getting sent, like when you see usually a creator get a big PR box for a specific new launch or something like that. A lot of times those are being gifted to the creator in hopes that they will share, but there's not a requirement to share, or there's not an agreement in place. They are just trying to get the product in the hands of people that may share it or to get feedback if it's a newer product launch, things like that. In my head, those are some kind of generic everyday terms that you would see as a content creator and would want to get familiar with and learn more about. And these explanations of terms are very, very basic, just kind of like a broken down, simplified version. There's definitely a lot more that you can deep dive into it and a lot more specifics that you need to know about these things. But just to give a general starting point, when I started creating content, the majority of these were completely foreign to me. I had never heard them. I didn't know what UGC stood for. I didn't know what half of these things meant or how they would affect me later on. So I think it's something to be open about. And I think that as creators, we learn so much from each other and are always growing and learning. I know that there's probably a million things that I have to learn still about these terms that I'm talking about and listing. A lot of content creation is trial and error, honestly, and just speaking to others, asking questions. Definitely you want to do your research to know as much as you can, but if you've researched a certain term or you've asked some people or tried to understand and you're not understanding, and a brand is asking you for certain deliverables or they're sending you a certain contract and you're not understanding part of it, don't be afraid to ask. The people working for these brands are real people and usually they're absolutely lovely. I've actually made friends with some different brands and people that work for them throughout content creation, and they're great and understanding. So they do not bite if you ask a question or you ask to have something clarified. They are usually more than happy to explain that to you so that there is not confusion later on. Sometimes I'm even just asking a brand saying, hey, this is my understanding of this section. I just want to clarify that that is correct. And they will clarify that for me. And knowing what you're signing up for, understanding these different terms doesn't just apply to brand deals. It has to do with different platforms that you're signing on to, whether that be editing apps, whether that be the social media platform itself. There's always terms and things that you're agreeing to that are different depending on the platform. That can have to do with the terms that you sign up for when you're signing up for an influencer platform that is helping you to locate brand deals and things like that. They might have different terms or different usage agreements than you get with the individual brand themselves. So it's just good to have a basic understanding of that and kind of know how all of that works. The more prepared you are in that sense, the more you can protect yourself and the better you can do with being successful as a creator. I hope that some of this was helpful for you. If there's anything that you would like explained a little bit more in depth, or you'd like to hear more about content creation and kind of how we got started or how to do so, I would be more than happy to do that. So just let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. So happy to have you all as a part of our journey. Hello, good morning. Still in my PJs, going to get ready for the day and talk about something that I feel like I get a lot of questions on, or that people want to know, which is talking all about growth. I am definitely not an expert on growing a social media platform. Our largest page is Instagram right now, which is still definitely smaller compared to a lot of creators, but I'm just going to share kind of my perspective and what I've learned. I want to start off by talking about the misconception that bigger is better, and that's what you need to be successful on social media, that you need tons and tons of followers, and that's what you need to monetize, which is not the case. I actually think that the wrong growth can hold you back. For example, if you are going viral for something and kind of getting the wrong followers that aren't going to be actively engaging with your page and staying on. It can really affect your engagement rate, which doesn't look good for if you want to work with brands and do things like that. On through my page and even removed followers before that seemed to be bots or inactive followers to help that. Obviously, having a following does help to get certain opportunities, like it's not hindering anyone, but it's just really not the most important thing, which I would say is probably your engagement rate if we're talking about statistics. Otherwise, obviously, I would say the type of content that you're creating and the quality of that content. Things about social media is the community that we've built, which is a smaller group than our overall following, but it's the people that we've met along the way, both just online, but then also now meeting in person, which is really special. I didn't start our page as a way to monetize. I honestly didn't even really know that was a thing. So for me, it was more about making a difference and showing bully, breed, and rescue dogs in a positive light. Just the fact that I'm obsessed with my dog and take a million pictures, and it was somewhere to put those pictures and for the community and to learn new things. I've learned so much. It's crazy. I've learned things that honestly don't even apply to me. Like I've learned so much about cats. I don't own a cat, but it's just interesting to learn information, I think, and always be growing. Being said, if you are looking to monetize, you can monetize your platform with 100 followers. You could monetize it with 500 followers. There are a lot of different ways to make income on social media, and it's not dependent on following. Polo is snoring in the background, if you hear that, very loudly, of course. As I was saying, I know that it can be frustrating sometimes, especially if you're kind of starting off as a creator, to just hear like, don't worry about these things, or when people say like, oh, well, I don't care about following, I don't care about likes, when I feel like all of us a little bit care about those things deep down, even if it's not your priority and it's not the reason that you're doing what you do. Like, it feels good to have that reassurance, and it feels good to gain a following. It feels good when a video or a photo performs really well. So I understand that side of it as well. Fun to kind of challenge yourself and experiment with different types of content to see like what performs well or what does best, as long as you're not crossing that line of torturing yourself with it and being like obsessed with just the numbers where you don't have fun creating content anymore. Without further ado, I will get into some things that I've noticed have helped our page to grow. Like I said, this will mostly be referring to Instagram content since that's our largest platform. YouTube, I'm very, very new to, so don't know if I have a lot of tips there yet. And we are still not a massive page by any means, so someone else might have better tips, but this is just what worked for me. It is something that I think people hear a lot, but it really does help, which is consistency and consistently posting. A lot of people think that this means you have to post every day and post multiple times a day, and that's not the case at all. What that means is just consistently. So find a schedule that works for you. If that's posting 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 days a week, and stick to it and be regularly posting. I think that people want to follow accounts that are active. Is just going to typically favor those accounts that are active and are regularly using their platform. I think especially once you've started one social media platform and maybe you're joining another, or you're kind of just starting out, people get these bursts of creativity, which is wonderful, and they make a whole bunch of content. Yes, Polo? Okay, this was unplanned, but I'm trying out this new Ever2 bully stick holder because Polo wants all of my attention and doesn't want me to talk. Okay, sorry, there might be some chomping in the background now, but at least he's happy. But what I was saying is, I think that sometimes creators get this kind of burst of creativity and they make a whole bunch of content and then they just toss it up on whatever platform. And then they hit a point where they kind of have burnt out and they're out of ideas, or they're feeling too much pressure, feeling overwhelmed. They don't know what to create. So I think to go into it a little bit strategically and create when you're feeling creative, but then stick to that consistent schedule of plugging in the content rather than just using it all up right away. Sorry about that, I had to take a quick break and change. Not so fun fact about me, I'm a fainter and I was getting a little lightheaded, but we're back and we're good now. Something else that I think is going to help with growth is engagement. And this is tossed around a lot, but what I mean by that is not just liking and commenting emojis on other creators' posts, but actually getting to know other creators, swipe up on their story, ask them a question, get to know them, and kind of develop those real friendships. One true good friendship can easily turn into 50 because you never know who other people know and they'll connect you with. I also think finding groups with common interests can be really helpful. I do not mean like following engagement groups, anything like that. That actually can be very harmful for your page. But I've been in enrichment groups that talk about kind of dog food and toppers and treats and make beautiful, beautiful bowls. I've been in a group with all other pity moms that have pity mixes and kind of could chat about some things that we all go through with that, or just dog moms, all sorts of different things that you kind of have one thing that relates all of you, and that can help to start a lot of conversations and get to know new people. A lot of people talk about kind of following ratios. You might hear tossed around and like, oh, you shouldn't be following more people than you have followers. I think that's kind of silly. But I do think that it is important to kind of carefully cultivate who you're following. If you're following like 7,000 people, chances are you're not seeing the majority of those people's posts. You're not knowing what's going on with them, and it kind of takes away from the community element, I think, in my opinion. I would rather be following a bit of a smaller number of people that I can really deeply connect with and get to know and can say are friends of ours. Obviously, I would love to follow absolutely everyone and support everyone and get to know as many people as I can, but it's just not always realistic that those people then are going to show up in my feed. And I've found that I can keep up with people a little bit better if I keep that more manageable. But on the flip side, I think that to a degree, especially if you're starting out, you kind of have to follow people to grow your following. People right away off the get-go probably aren't going to want to follow you if you're not following them back and engaging with them. It's kind of a mutual thing. Like I keep saying, this community, because that really is what social media is at the end of the day. So I think to also go out of your way to find accounts that have similar interest, or if you're in the pet space, maybe have similar pets. I think that's kind of the easiest thing to start with. A lot of my good friends on social media might not have really much in common with me in terms of what they're posting or their niche, and we're still really great friends. But I think it's easiest sometimes to, when you're starting off, find like-minded individuals or people that have something in common, because those people are usually going to be interested in what you're posting because it relates to them. I think doing a little bit of research with that, looking for new creators, new content, and just engaging as much as you can and being supportive, and usually karma comes back on the other end. Something else that has helped me with growth is finding a signature series. This one can help with preventing burnout, which then helps with some other things I mentioned, like posting consistently if you have a series that you can refer to and be adding to that series all of the time. So for us, this is our Baking with Polo series, where Polo has his little chef outfit and creates dog-friendly recipes. We also started a hashtag in kind of a series on Wednesdays that we do Wacky Ear Wednesday, because we got so many comments about Polo's ears and how they kind of have a mind of their own. He always has a different set of ears, I joke. Also has a little series that I do occasionally that is What You Missed Since You Abandoned Me. Polo was abandoned by his last owner, and this is kind of a way that I do it to update on his life and kind of show all that he has been accomplishing recently. I think the key is finding something unique and creative. You don't want to be copying other creators or doing something that they're already doing. Find something that's unique to you and go off of that. Another thing that can help with growth and kind of finding like-minded individuals and finding the right community is story templates. So those little add yours templates where it might things like pity owners, add a photo of your pity, or it's rescue dog day, add a photo of your rescue dog. Different things like that you can add a story to, and then you can also go through the story and see other people that have posted and engage with them. And a bonus, if you can come up with your own add yours story template, that can be a good way for other people to find your account as well. So have to not be afraid to try something new and not be afraid to mix it up, and acknowledge that sometimes those are going to be complete and total flops, but you learn from it. The algorithm sometimes takes time to pick up on new things and to know kind of where to put your content if it's in a newer category. So just bear with it. I say that I make a lot of different content that falls into different categories. So some content I'm making with the goal of growth and kind of reaching new followers and a new audience. Content I'm making very much for our current audience, and it's things that they love, but maybe the algorithm doesn't love so much, but it's our community and our people at the end of the day, and so if they love it, I love that. Some content I make solely for myself. It's just content that makes me really happy to make and that I'm really proud of, and maybe it doesn't make anyone else happy, but it makes me happy, and that keeps me from burning out and losing my creativity. And people don't always look at it from that perspective, but not burning out and being able to stay consistent, once again, is going to help you grow in the long run. If content is going to be a hit, not every piece of content is going to gain you a bunch of followers. Sometimes it will accomplish all of those things. You will have so much fun making it. It will personally be really special to you. You'll gain a lot of followers. Your current followers will love it. Brands will love it. But realistically, that's not going to be every single piece of content, and learning to be okay with that. So sometimes viral content can be for people that don't support you and people that are hating on what you post. And that's not going to really help with growth either, even though a lot of eyes were on that content. So there's just a lot of different aspects of it. I would also say to look through your page, see what has performed well in the past, or something that you think could have performed really well but maybe didn't, and try to put a new twist on it. Try to work with what works best for, I would say, like 80% of the time, but then still be trying new things, because you never know what could work better. Just because something's working well doesn't mean there's not a better way to do it, or that there's something that would be even a bigger hit with your audience. So just looking back and kind of evaluating past content, seeing where you might have gained following, where you gained kind of that more authentic following, and how things performed, and keeping up with that style. And don't be afraid to sort of repurpose content. I think you have to be careful with this, because people don't want to feel like your page is repetitive and that you're doing just the same thing all the time. That can get boring. But maybe if a clip performed really well or a certain concept, trying to do something similar with it and use it again in a different way. And I have to go get some more things done today to work to grow our page, but I can definitely do a part 2 on this with the second half of my list for some tips and tricks with growth and different things like that. Let me know if that's something you would be interested in watching. As always, thank you so much for joining us on our journey, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.